Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr. As always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day and another great episode of Philadelphia Eagles Now coming your way. Here's what we're getting into over the next several minutes. Hitting the latest Philadelphia Eagles news. We have big updates on the Birds from ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter. I saw him a lot in San Francisco for Super Bowl week. He's a very busy guy. Also had a private driver. Must be nice. And Brandon Graham, Eagles legend, wants to return to Philadelphia for another season. Before we get to all of that, a reminder. Hit that subscribe button for top-notch, high-level, elite Philadelphia Eagles coverage. We were just at the Super Bowl. A bunch of great interviews already up on the channel. We did so much content from Super Bowl Radio Row in San Francisco. The NFL Combine starts February 23rd in Indianapolis. Myself and producer Chip, we will be there. Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman are going to talk. We'll also catch up with some draft prospects who could be future Eagles. Right after that, NFL free agency begins on March 9th. That's the legal tampering period. So we'll start to hear some of these deals trickle out. The NFL draft, April 23rd to the 25th. And then when it's time for minicamp, OTAs, and training camp, I've got you covered as well. This is your go-to spot. That's why you hit that subscribe button. The season might be over, but we never sleep right here on the program. All right. Let's begin here with the latest Philadelphia Eagles news from ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter. Of course, big topics of conversation this offseason. It's the Eagles' offensive line, but it's the futures of two pillars of that offensive line. Left guard Landon Dickerson, right tackle Lane Johnson. Will they play in 2026? Will one retire? Will both retire? Only time will tell, but I thought that we got some encouraging updates from Schefter and others over the last couple of days, really on both players here. Either way, the future of this Eagles offensive line is a big question mark for this organization. We know that general manager Howie Roseman always likes to invest in the trenches on offense and on defense. And when you think of the Eagles' success over the last few years, the pillar, the backbone, the foundation that's led to this Eagles team having a lot of success on offense has been their offensive line. Howie Roseman spends a lot of money there. Howie Roseman invests in draft capital there. But this offseason, it's going to be a little bit of a transitional phase for this Eagles offensive line. It's going to need retooling, regardless of whether or not Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson come back or retire. This is an offensive line in 2025 that was injured. It's an offensive line that's starting to get a little bit older, but also we're ushering in a new scheme. So we could see some personnel changes this offseason and in the future with the big boys up front. Now, I talked about this with Greg Cosell. Has been an executive producer at NFL Films for nearly 50 years. He's one of the brightest minds in all of football. And I asked him on Friday at Radio Row in the lead up to Super Bowl 60 about Jeff Stoutland leaving the Eagles. And he said a couple of really interesting things about Stoutland, this new scheme, some personnel changes, and some adjustments that are going to have to be made. And so when the Eagles hired Chris Cooper as a new offensive line coach on Monday, I played this clip on the show because it's brilliant insight. Let's play it again.
In this transitional phase, new change at offensive line coach and with a new run game coordinator coming in, were you surprised about the Jeff Stoutland news? Not really. Your reaction to that and why you think this could be beneficial for this Eagles offense moving forward?
Well, you know, I guess in some ways I wasn't surprised just because the run game with that sort of McVay-Shanahan style, which is that's Mannion's background, I think that there's a specific kind of run game that is taught. And look, I'm not saying Jeff Stoutland doesn't know that, but I think they wanted to bring in someone, you know, who really is schooled in it and starts from scratch and teaches that. Now, they've got some potential O-line issues. You know, Juergens did not have a really good season, and he was hurt a lot. There's a lot of talk about Dickerson now. You know, he's a guy, unfortunately, that's been injured so much going back to college. I read a report that, you know, he's considering retiring. I mean, they might have to retool that whole offensive line. I mean, Lane Johnson is what, 35, 36? Who knows what he's going to do? You know, unfortunately, and I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but unfortunately he's been hurt a lot. You know, you get older, father time catches up to everyone. So they probably have to retool the O-line, and they might look for a different kind of player given the new scheme.
And of course, as I just alluded to, the Eagles on Monday making a move to replace the legendary offensive line coach and future Hall of Famer Jeff Stoutland. They have hired Chris Cooper as their new offensive line coach. Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, all these Eagles offensive linemen don't know what it's like to play under an offensive line coach not named Jeff Stoutland. Was in Philadelphia for 13 years, ever since 2013, one of the better moves that Chip Kelly made as the head coach, hiring him and drafting Lane Johnson. And I know that this hiring of Cooper is a little bit of a risk because his offensive lines with Minnesota never perform all that well. I think context is important on that front. Minnesota never really invested high draft capital or dollars in free agency to the offensive line. He had one really good player up front, Christian Darrisaw, who ended up developing into a really good player. I think the big thing here with Cooper, which is what Greg Cosell kind of forecasted, is that he understands the scheme of what Sean Mannion wants and what he's going to implement. Chris Cooper was drafted by Mike Shanahan. He played under Mike Munchak, one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the NFL. Overlap with Vic Fangio in Denver. There's familiarity there as well, but he's coached under Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell came from the Sean McVay tree. Sean Mannion played under Sean McVay, and this whole offense is a Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay type of scheme that's coming to the city of brotherly love in 2026, and I'm very excited about it. As for what Adam Schefter said on 97.5 The Fanatic this morning in Philadelphia, on with Andrew Salchunas and John Kincaid, friends of the show, shout out to them. I do expect, Schefty said, that Lane Johnson will be back. I have heard the Landon Dickerson conversation on his potential retirement. I don't know how real it is or isn't, but I'd be surprised. If Lane Johnson isn't back, I don't know as much about Landon Dickerson. So there's two players, obviously, that we're talking about here. Lane, Landon. Let's begin with Landon. Yes, he's only 27 years old. Hasn't been in the NFL all that long. He's been a really good player when he's been healthy. Pro Bowler, one of the top left guards in football, one of the highest paid left guards in football, a Super Bowl champion, and a key cog for that Eagles offense in 2024, which ran for more than 2,000 yards led by Saquon Barkley. But while he's only 27 years old, his injury history is insane, and that's a big reason why he might be contemplating retirement. And I tweeted out his entire injury history on my X page. Give me a follow over there, at Chase_Senior. This right here on your screen is just a snippet of what he's had to deal with from a health and physical standpoint. He tore both ACLs in college, one at Florida State, the other one in Alabama. In consecutive years, 2017, 2018, he had two season-ending ankle injuries. And then at the NFL level, a bevy of injuries just in 2025. Prior to the year, he had that meniscus surgery when he got caught up with Jordan Mailata at that open practice at Lincoln Financial Field. Knee and back injuries as well. He was a beat-up player this past season. And remember what he said after the year when he was asked about his health and if he could take the offseason to get better? He said, I wish I had an answer to that. It's not great, right? And if you are Landon Dickerson has earned $35 million so far in his NFL career, and he's only 27 years old. When he signed that monster contract a couple of years ago, he got $50 million in guaranteed money. If Landon Dickerson feels like shit, if Landon Dickerson turns on the tape and sees that he's getting beat, he can't move, can't hold up from a physical standpoint, and he's getting bulldozed constantly, and he feels as though he can't get back to playing elite football, if you've got all that money and you don't want to put your body through the rigors of another NFL season, I don't blame Landon Dickerson for contemplating retirement. And if he does retire, I wouldn't be surprised, because this past year, when he was dealing with all the injuries on top of all of the injuries that he had in college, double ACL tears, two season-ending ankle injuries, he looked like a shell of himself. What's crazy is how talented he is despite the injuries. He had the worst year of his career, yet his overall PFF grade, not bad, 67.7. His run blocking grade, he was still passable there at 69.4. The lack of lateral mobility, agility, and quickness is really what stood out to me. And that stood out with him being awful in pass protection. His pass blocking grade was only 59.4, and he allowed 30 pressures this past season. And the struggles from that Eagles offensive line, a big reason why this offense last year, on top of all of the other problems, could never find its stride. If you're looking for a glass half full approach, if you're looking for positivity here, Landon Dickerson did put this video on his Instagram page. It's like a do-it-yourself page that he runs alongside his wife because he's a handyman and they like to feature a lot of home projects and other projects that they do around the crib or just with some of their side hobbies outside of football. And it was a joke Instagram reel where it was one of those things where it's like when you forget to take out the trash. Well, he sprung up off the couch, ran up the stairs, was a little bit bouncy, and he was putting some pressure on that knee, doing some high knees going up the stairs. So from a physical standpoint, is he feeling pretty good? Obviously, it's not playing football, but maybe that's a positive here in this Landon Dickerson situation. As for what is going on with Lane Johnson, one of the best right tackles in the history of football, a future Hall of Famer, and one of the finest players in the history of this Eagles organization. We'll talk about him coming up here in just a moment. Also, Brandon Graham wants to come back in 2026 should the Eagles bring him back. We'll get to that here in a moment. But first, Valentine's Day is coming up on Saturday. Did you get your significant other something? If you have a wonderful lady in your life who you love, adore, and care about, and you haven't gotten her anything yet, hop on it right now. Great deal. Our Valentine's Day merch. We have sweatshirts. We have shirts. We have sold a bunch of these, and they're not going to get to you in time for Valentine's Day, but it's the thought that counts. So act quickly, get her something, set a reservation, and then get a shirt and a sweatshirt as well so that she can get that on top of everything that you're going to do. Great prices, great material, comfort colors on the sweatshirt, married into this. She may not have been born an Eagles fan, but if she's married to you, she's married into this like you're married to the game being an Eagles fan. Chatsports.com/EaglesVDay. It's chatsports.com/EaglesVDay. Get your lady something that she would really like for Valentine's Day this year. All right, as for the latest around Lane Johnson, I poked around when I was at the Super Bowl. A lot of people do believe that Lane Johnson is going to come back at this point of the offseason. I'm scanning for any type of hints that we could get for the futures of Landon Dickerson and Lane Johnson. For Dickerson, I saw that Instagram reel. For Lane Johnson, this was posted on Instagram as well. Him squatting, or deadlifting, I should say, proper terminology since I'm such a health and fitness guy, a lot of weight here. And he's got the resistance bands on there too. So he's got the trap bar, and that is like multiple 45-pounders on each side. Would Lane Johnson be doing this, lifting this much weight, if he wasn't going to come back in 2026? I think Lane Johnson is going to return for another season with the Eagles, and he's been a premier right tackle since he came into the league all the way back in 2013. In reading the tea leaves here, we have now had multiple respected media members, locally and nationally, say that Lane Johnson is coming back. LaShawn McCoy on his podcast alongside Emmanuel Acho said that he spoke with Lane Johnson and said he's not going anywhere. He's not retiring. That's, of course, a good sign because Shady played with Lane, has a relationship there, a direct line of communication, and he claims that Lane told him that Lane is coming back in 2026. Lane Johnson this past season, it was unfortunate that he just couldn't stay healthy, and it was like one injury after another because that severely hindered and impacted this Eagles offense. Still had some pretty good numbers. Run blocking grade, a tick under 70. The pass blocking grade, really good at 80.4. He gave up only 7 pressures, and then the big one, 0 sacks allowed. So he's still one of the top right tackles in football, and when he's healthy, my gosh, he's a special player. And we all know about the Lane Train effect. When he's on the field, Eagles have a lot of success. They win nearly 70% of their games. Without Lane Johnson, their winning percentage dips below 40%. Since 2013, the Eagles' record with Lane Johnson, 110, 57-1. Without Lane Johnson, 18-27. And in 2025, they were 3-4 in the regular season without Lane, 3-5 if you count that wild card loss to the San Francisco 49ers. I'm still sick about it. All right, let's round out with this on this segment here. What is the future of Eagles legend Brandon Graham? Will he come back for a 16th season in 2026, or will he retire for a second time? He did say on his podcast that if Howie Roseman makes that call and hits up BG, who is third all-time in Eagles franchise history in sacks, number one in games played, Brandon Graham wants to come back for one more season. And the Eagles signed him halfway through the 2025 campaign. I actually thought he played really well, and there was some pop to his game even at his age. With limited snaps, BG was highly productive. He only logged 113 snaps as a rotational player at defensive end and at defensive tackle, only 67 pass rush snaps, but he still logged 3 sacks, 11 pressures, 8 hurries, and he was good against the run. I would bring him back as a veteran depth piece. And I thought Vic Fangio found something last year because when Jalen Carter went out, BG played more from the interior, and he did a really good job of getting after the quarterback. And pass rusher depth, defensive line depth is a need for the Eagles going into this offseason. BG, let's run it back once again. You also look at the Eagles' defensive free agents here. What do you notice? Brandon Graham, a free agent. Edge rusher Jalen Phillips. Edge rusher Azeez Ojulari. Edge rusher Josh Uche. Edge rusher Obu Okoronkwo. Linebacker Nakobe Dean. Safety Reed Blankenship. Those edge rushers were depth pieces for the Eagles. So right now, the players that we know for sure who are going to be under contract in 2026 at the edge rusher spot, Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt. That's pretty much it. So bringing Brandon Graham back would make a lot of sense for the Birds. Don't forget to give me a follow, by the way, on social media. In addition to giving you so much Eagles coverage right here on YouTube, I'm always giving you Eagles content on my personal pages. I'm on X, Instagram, TikTok, at Chase_Senior. And you can also find me on Facebook, Chase Senior Chat Sports, reaching millions of people on those platforms.